You do that there's a mitzvah, the Raisa, every Friday night to make Kiddush. The Torah says, Zocha is Yom HaShabbos HaKatshoy. Mitzvah the Raisa to remember Shabbos, we make Kaddish Shabbos. Kiddush has to be made over wine, Zachrei ala yain. However, we pass in la halacha that din of Zachrei ala yain is only midrabanan. Midaraisa one is Yotze Kiddush in without wine. One daven Shemon Esrei, and he says the Birchas Mekadesh HaShabbos. The Magen HaRav says he's Yotze his chi of Kiddush Daraisa. When you come home and you make Kiddush over again, ala kois, that's a chi of the Rabbanon. It's also Yedua that the mitzvah of Kiddush, even though it's a mitzvah Asay Shadman Geroma, nevertheless, women are mechuyev in Kiddush just the same as men. That's because Zocha v'Shoma b'dibo echanem. So we learn out that whoever's included in Shoma's Yom HaShabbos, and women are certainly included in Shoma's Yom HaShabbos. Shoma Yom HaShabbos means God Shabbos not to violate the Lametes Malachas. The Loisah says Avada women are included. And we bald Zocha v'Shoma was said b'dibo echad. We learn out that Kol Sheyeshnoi b'Shmira b'Shoma, whoever is included in Shoma is included in Zochar. That teaches us that women are mechuyev in the mitzvahs I say of Kiddush and Shabbos minat Torah. The Magen HaRav in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph says the following Kiddush. He says that if you have a bar mitzvah boy, let's say you have a mother, let's say the father's away, and you have a mother at home, and her son is just 13 years old, bar mitzvah boy. And let's say he is the one that's going to be making Kiddush and to be moitzi his mother. So the Magen HaRav says that's a problem because as he davened Ma'ariv. If he davened Ma'ariv, he was yoytze the Kiddush Daraisa with Shemon Esrei. So for him, this Kiddush is only midrabanan. Assuming that his mother did not daven Ma'ariv, so for her, the Kiddush she is hearing now is a mitzvah d'oraisa. Memela, it's a problem. It's a problem for the son to be moitzi the mother. She has to be yotze Kiddush minat Torah. There is a halacha when it comes to mitzvahs d'oraisa. We have to be choishesh about mitzvah boy of 13 unless we know he has shtei saras. We have to be choishesh, maybe he doesn't have shtei saras. Even though mi'ika din, once a boy turns 13, there's chazaka the rava that we can assume he probably has shtei saras. But from that vegan, when it comes to mitzvahs d'oraisa, we are not soymech and chazaka the rava. And in Mela, since the mother is mechuyev in Kiddush mid'oraisa, she can't be yotze with the son's Kiddush because the son may not be a gadol, even though he's bar mitzvah, even though he's 13 years old, but he may not have shtei saras. If he doesn't have shtei saras, so then he's not a gadol. And since her chiyuv is a chiyuv d'oraisa, when it comes to a chiyuv d'oraisa, we cannot be soymech on the chazaka that we can assume that he has shtei saras. We have to know for a fact he has shtei saras. And as long as we don't know that for a fact, she cannot be yotze with his Kiddush. So therefore, the Magen HaRav says she should make Kiddush herself, meaning she should say the words along with him. When he's making the Kiddush, it's possible she doesn't even know how to read. Those days, women were not so educated, but she should say the Kiddush along with her son. That way, she's making Kiddush herself. That way, she's making Kiddush herself, and she's not relying on his Kiddush. Dr. Magen HaRav, he concludes with saying, Ayin Simin Kuf Tzadi Gimel. Look at Simin Kuf Tzadi Gimel. What does he mean? So Mikvega says that Magram means as follows. Vega means that there's another reason why there's a preference for her to make the kiddush along with her son, and not to be yaitza with him, because in Siman Kuf Sadi Gimel, the Mechaber paskins that Shomea Ka'ona, if I hear kiddush, if I hear somebody else's kiddush, and I'm being yaitza using the mechanics of Shomea Ka'ona, Mechaber holds that can only work if I understand Lashon HaKodesh. If I understand what the meaning of the words that I hear. Shemaya is not enough to hear. It's not enough to listen. I have to understand the words. And if the mother does not understand Lashon HaKodesh, she does not understand the words of Kiddush according to the Mechaber, she cannot be Yaitza by listening to his Kiddush. Now, many places can disagree with this Mechaber, and halacha we paskin not like the Mechaber. But from Deswegen, the Magen Avraham is saying there's certainly a preference in order to be Yaitza, the shit of the Mechaber. There's a preference for the mother to say the Kiddush along with the child, not to be Yaitza with his Kiddush, since she doesn't understand the meaning of the words. So if there's anyway a preference for her to say the Kiddush along with the child. So the Magen Avraham is saying that in this case here, there's actually two reasons why she should be saying the Kiddush along with the child. First of all, to be yaitz the shittas HaMechaber in Siman Kuf Tzadi Gimel, that Shomea only works if I understand the meaning of the words. And secondly, in this case here, since he's a bar mitzvah boy, 13 years old, he may not have shtei saris. And when it comes to mitzvahs d'oraisa, we're not soymech on the chazaka that we have the right to assume he has shtei saris. We have to be choshesh that maybe he doesn't have shtei saris. And if that's the case, since for her the mitzvah of kiddush is a mitzvah d'oraisa, because she didn't daven ma'ariv yet. So for her, the mitzvah of Kiddush is a mitzvah d'oraisa. Memela, she shouldn't be soymech on listening to the boy's Kiddush. She should say the words along with the child. Zay Dr. Magen Avraham. Feka b'kivega akasha. B'kivega has a aura. If she's going to say the Kiddush along with the child, and have in mind not to be yaitza with the child, with the boy's Kiddush, she's going to be making her own Kiddush, saying it word per word together with the boy. She has no kais in her hand, so kumtais her Kiddush is going to be shloy ala kais. The Kiddush is going to be without yayin. He's the one that's holding the cup of wine in his hand. She's making Kiddush al yayin, but if she is mechaber not to be yaitza, with his Kiddush, and she's making her own Kiddush, she says along with him word per word, so then her Kiddush is not being said over a cup of wine. So how is she yaitza the mitzvah of kacheyu al yayin? Aloi feka b'kivega. Zucker b'kivega. That no, she is mechaven. She's mechaven to do both. She's mechaven to be yaitza with his Kiddush, and she's also saying her own Kiddush. So so she's saying her own Kiddush because for the mitzvah d'oraisa of Kiddush, we're not soymech and chazaka that the child has shtei saris. That's why she makes her own Kiddush. And in ochinami, it's not being said over a kais, but Kiddush d'oraisa doesn't need a kais. And as far as the chi of Kiddush, Drabanan, that they were mechayiv to make Kiddush over a kais, so for that to be soymech and shomea ka'ona. Because for Drabanans, we could be soymech and chazaka d'orava. We could be soymech that he has shtei saris. It's only for the mitzvah Kiddush d'oraisa that we can't be soymech and chazaka d'orava. So that's why she makes her own Kiddush. She says it together with him. And even though that Kiddush that she's saying together, that Kiddush that she's saying herself is not being said over a kais of yayin, But the Kiddush D'Oraisa doesn't need yayin. So for the Kiddush D'Rabbanan that does require yayin, for that she's soymech and shmei ka'ona. Because on that she could be soymech, since that's only midrabbanan, so she could be soymech that the child has shtei saris. And for the Kiddush D'Oraisa, that we are not soymech on the chazaka that the child has shtei saris, so that for that she's soymech on the Kiddush she's making herself. And even though that's being said without yayin, Kiddush D'Oraisa doesn't need yayin. But then Rikvega says it's very shver, because if she is being mechaven to be yaitz with shomea ka'ona, in addition to saying the Kiddush along with the child, she's also being mechaven to be yaitz with the child's Kiddush, and that way she's covered. She's covering all her bases. But that's a pella, because then let's say the child Bemis has shtei saris, so then she is yaita with shmei ka'ona. Then the Kiddush she's making herself the bracha of Atola. Bishleim, if you learn kipshutai, that the Magen HaRav means to say that she's not mechaven at all to be yaita with shmei ka'ona. She's making her own Kiddush. That's it. She's saying it together with the child, and she's mechaven to be yaita with the Kiddush that she's making. Then it's fine. But we're gonna say like a kivega. We're gonna say that Pshat the Magen HaRav is that she's doing both. She's mechaven to be yaita with shmei ka'ona. That way she'll be yaita the din of the din d'Rabbanan of Kiddush alayayin. But she's also saying the Kiddush along herself in order to be yaita the Kiddush D'Oraisa, because for the Kiddush D'Oraisa we're not soymech and chazaka d'Rava. So for that she'll be soymech on what she says herself. And even though that's not being said al yayin, Kiddush D'Oraisa doesn't need yayin. But if she's mechaven to be yaita with shmei ka'ona, and this child may have shtei saris, most children do have shtei saris when they become 13 years old. It's just we're not soymech on that for mitzvah d'Oraisa. But there's a very good chance that he take shtei saris. The shtei saris, then she's yaitza everything. She's yaitza side the mitzvah d'Oraisa, side the mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Then kumde the Kiddush she's making is the bracha of Atola. So the Kvega says that what the Magen HaRav means to say is, he doesn't mean to say that she should say along the entire Kiddush, the entire bracha from beginning to end. No, that she can't do, because that it may be a bracha of Atola. What he means to say is she should only say the middle part. In other words, the Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, that she does not say. That she just listens. And also the Chasima Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadosh Shabbos, she does not say along. That she just listens to the child. She just says the middle part, the part that does not have any bracha. So Memela, there's no chashash bracha l'atola, but she is yaitza her mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa, because Craig is machadish that for Kiddush D'Oraisa you don't need a bracha. You have to just mention Kedusha Shabbos. So for that, it's maspik to say the middle part of the bracha without saying the actual bracha. Both the psicha and the chasima, you leave that out. That she listens. That part of the bracha she's mechaven only to be yaita with shmei ka'ona. She doesn't say that herself, and she just says the middle part that doesn't have a bracha. So there's no chashash bracha l'atola. So that way, the mitzvah d'Oraisa, she's yaita with those words that she says along, and even though there's no yayin, you don't need yayin for the Kiddush D'Oraisa. And even though there's no nusach habracha, you don't need a nusach habracha for the Kiddush D'Oraisa. And as far as the Kiddush D'Rabbanan is concerned, that requires a kais, it requires a nusach habracha. All that she's saying on shmei ka'ona, and she's yaitza with the Kiddush of the bar mitzvah boy. The Bialacha quotes this, and he says it's dochuk. It's dochuk to say the Magen HaRav means this. Magen HaRav doesn't really mention that she only should say the middle part of the bracha. Doesn't mention that, and b'chlal it's quite confusing to tell the woman, don't say this part, don't say that part, only say the middle part. It can lead to a lot of confusion. The Bialacha finds this mahalach difficult. So, but Mitrega says this, and but l'chayra, one could say a little bit different to explain the Magen Avram. And that's as follows. There's two mitzvahs of Kiddush. There's a mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa, and there's a mitzvah of Kiddush D'Abanan. Like we said, person
Rabbi Zucker, the Rav is not visible properly because we have to adjust it a little bit. First of all, you can move you can move the computer in such a way you were going off it to the side. I'm sorry to do this. And second, it's better to be a little bit more stationary because otherwise on a Zoom it's a shtickle distracting.
Is this good?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay. There's two mitzvahs of Kiddush, like we said. The mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa, that does not require a kais. Then there's the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Abanan, the Banu Mechayiv to be Mekarish ala kais. So, could be Pshat the Magen Ram is, like we Krega Taka says, she is Mechaven, she says she is Mechaven to be Yait with Shomea Ka'ona. However, she is Mechaven Lahedya, she only wants to be Yaitza with Shomea Ka'ona for the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Rabbanan. She doesn't want to be Yaitza, the Chi of Kiddush D'Oraisa with Shomea Ka'ona. That she wants to do herself. She's mechaven lahedya. Like Taisa says, even in mitzvahs ain't sheikhas kavana, but if a person is mechaven lahedya, I don't want to be yaitza, not yaitza. So one could split and say, I want to be yaitza with Shomea Ka'ona. I want to be yaitza with the mitzvahs Kiddush D'Rabbanan that requires a kais, but I do not want to be yaitza the mitzvah Kiddush D'Oraisa with Shomea Ka'ona. That I want to make myself. So there's no chashash b'chol latola. There's no chashash b'chol latola because even if this child has shtei saris, she's still not yaitza the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa with Shomea Ka'ona because she's mechaven, she doesn't want to be yaitza. She's mechaven lahedya, I don't want to be yaitza the mitzvah's Kiddush D'Oraisa. So she's not yaitza, even if he has shtei saris. And she technically could have been yaitza, but she doesn't want to be yaitza. She only wants to be yaitza. She only wants to be mekayim the Kiddush D'Rabbanan through Shomea Ka'ona. But the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa, she wants to do herself, saying it along with him. So Mela, everything is fine. There's no chashash b'chol latola, because as far as the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa is concerned, she's not yaitza. She's not yaitza with Shomea Ka'ona because she was mechavel hedge. I don't want to be yaitza with his Kiddush. So all she can be mekayim with Shomea Ka'ona is the Kiddush D'Rabbanan. For the Kiddush D'Rabbanan, we can be soymech. We can be soymech on chazaka d'Rava. We can be soymech that this child does have shtei saris. And for the Kiddush D'Rabbanan, we have a becher. Since we have a kaishal yayin because she's being yaitza with his Kiddush. The mitzvah of Kiddush D'Rabbanan, she is being yaitza with Shomea Ka'ona. And as far as the mitzvah of Kiddush D'Oraisa is concerned, where we cannot be soymech on chazaka, that she is not being yaitza with the child's Kiddush, even if Kapi Shmaya Galya, he has shtei saris, her kavanah is, I don't want to be yaitza with his Kiddush. That I want to make myself. And even though her own Kiddush that she's making herself together with the child does not have a becher, doesn't need a becher. Kiddush D'Oraisa doesn't need a kaishal yayin. So maybe she's covered. Mitzvah Kiddush D'Oraisa, she's saying herself. And even though there's no becher, but she's yaitza, and this way she's also yaitza the shit of the machaber that you can't use Shomea Ka'ona if you don't understand lashon hakodesh. For the D'Oraisa, she's making it herself. If you make Kiddush yourself, everyone agrees you don't have to understand. It's only if you want to use Shomea Ka'ona does the machaber hold that it's only called Shomea if I understand it. But if she's saying the Kiddush herself, for that she's yaitza, even though she doesn't understand lashon hakodesh. And as far as the mitzvah Kiddush D'Rabbanan is concerned, where there's a chiyuv to make kiddush over yain. So for that, she cannot be samech on her own kiddush because she's not making it over wine. So for that, she is mechaven to be yoyter with the child's kiddush with shomea ka'ona. So she has a becher, and for the rabbanans, we can be samech on Zucker the Rava that we can assume that the child had shtei saris, and we can also. And as far as the Rabbanan is concerned, we can certainly be samech on most Rishonim that holds that Shomea Ka'ona works, even though I don't understand, even though she doesn't understand Lashon HaKodesh. That's the Chayra Mahalach in the Magen Avraham. It'll answer Bikvegus Kashas. Where do we find such a mitzvah that I could be yoytze, I could use Shomea Ka'ona l'chatzoin. I could be makaven. I do want to use Shomea Ka'ona, but only for the mitzvah d'Rabbanan, not for the mitzvah d'Oraisa. So we find such a mitzvah. We find it by benching. There's a halacha of zimun. If three people eat together, there's a mitzvah of zimun. Now the mitzvah of zimun, according to many Rishonim, is not just to say Baruch shechalam mishloiv tu achinu. According to many Rishonim, it's really totally different shittas in the Gemara. But according to many Rishonim, l'halacha, the first bracha of benching is part of the mitzvah of zimun. In other words, the first bracha of benching is, besides being part of the benching, even if there's no zimun, you got to say that bracha, but it has this an additional kiyum of zimun. It's part of zimun. That's why initially the minig was that when there's a zimun, those that are listening to the mizamein, they wouldn't even say the first bracha themselves, because the mitzvah of zimun is to hear it, is to hear the mizamein say the bracha. That's the zimun. To hear the mizamein say the bracha, and be yaitze with his bracha. That's what makes the zimun. That's what brings them together. It's only later on, when it became more difficult for people to concentrate, so they were misaken that even when there's a zimun, everybody should say the first bracha. But even then, many places are noyik that the first bracha benching is said quietly. In yeshivas, this is how they noyik that the first bracha of benching, when there's a zimun, is said quietly, so that the oilam could hear the mizamin saying the first bracha. Because in order to be yetzer zimun, if the first bracha of benching is part of zimun, in order to be yetzer zimun, you have to hear the mizamin saying that first bracha. You have to be yetzer that first bracha mitzad bircha zimun. So that's why the first bracha of benching should be said quietly. That's how they know it in many places, especially in yeshivas. That first bracha should be said quietly. And even though I am saying that first bracha together with the mizamein, but I'm also listening. I'm listening and I'm saying. Now, what does that mean? So many learn, not everyone, but many learn. It works with Shomea Ka'ona. Even though I'm benching myself and I'm saying it myself to be yait to the mitzvah of birchas hamazon, but as far as birchas hazimun is concerned, that I have to be yait with the mizamein. Otherwise, it's not called zimun. So I'm listening and I'm saying, and my quote is to be yait to Shomea Ka'ona with the mizamein, but only to be yait to mitzvah zimun. The mitzvah of benching, that I'm saying myself. So here we have a heichi timsa where Mom is exactly the same type of a matziv, where I'm listening and saying, and I'm being mechaven to be yoytzer partially with Shomea Ka'ona and partially saying it myself. The mitzvah of zimun, of birchas zimun, that I want to be yoytzer with the mizamein, with his amira. But the mitzvah of birchas hamazon, which is the mitzvah d'oraisa, that I'm saying myself. See, we see mamish the same type of situation where we can split up as a Shomea Ka'ona. Now, not everybody learns that zimun works with Shomea Ka'ona. There's some that hold that it does not work with Shomea Ka'ona, even though I have to hear the bracha from the mouth of the mizamein, but it's not a din of Shomea Ka'ona. I don't have to be yotza. It has to be said in the presence of the of all those who are being Yaitze Zimun, but they're not being Yaitze. If you learn like that, then this is not a riot. But those that hold that it does have to work with Shomea Ka'ona, and when I say it and listen, two things are happening at once. As far as the Birchel Zimun is concerned, I'm talking about being Yaitze with Shomea Ka'ona, but as far as the mitzvah of Birchel Hamazon is concerned, I'm not being Yaitze. That I'm saying that I'm being Yaitze with my own Amira. See, here we have such a situation where we could split, where I could be listening to a bracha and have a mind Shomea Ka'ona only for one mitzvah, only for the Drabanan. But the rice I want to do myself. The Zimun, which is the Drabanan, for that I want to be Yaitze with Shomea Ka'ona. But the Birchel Hamazon, that I want to do myself. I want to say myself. It makes a very big nafkamina how to understand the side of Zimun. If it has to work with the mechanics of Shomea Ka'ona, then the Mizamein would not be allowed to bench in a microphone. Because many poskim hold that if we hear someone make a bracha over a microphone, you can't be Yaitze. Because you're not hearing the coil of the person, you're hearing the coil of a microphone. A microphone produces its own sound waves. It's not the pshat I'm hearing the person's talk. When a person talks into a microphone, the microphone produces sound waves that sound exactly like the voice of the one that's speaking into the microphone, just louder. But the microphone is creating its own independent sound. And I'm not hearing the mizamein, I'm hearing the microphone. If I have to be Yaitze with Shomea Ka'ona, many hold, you can't be Yaitze with listening in a microphone. Minik Olam is most at chasnas and banquets, big Olam, they do bench in a microphone. So they're obviously being Soimech, and those that hold that Zimun does not work with Shomea Ka'ona. But there are those that hold that Zimun does have to work with Shomea Ka'ona. According to those shittas, we have a clear raya that we could split. We could split the Shomea Ka'ona. We can use the Shomea Ka'ona only for the Zimun and not for the Birchel Hamazon. That I'm saying myself. So that could be pshat in the Magen Avraham, that when she says along the kiddush with the 13-year-old boy, and at the same time she listens and is mechaven to be Yaitze Shomea Ka'ona, but her kavan is only to use the Shomea Ka'ona for the mitzvah Drabanan, not for the mitzvah D'oraisa. That she wants to be Yaitze herself. That way, there's no chashav shebachol atala, and that way, as far as the D'oraisa is concerned, there's no problem. There's no problem with. There's no problem with. There's no problem with not understanding, and there's no problem with the fact that he doesn't have Shtei Saris, because the mitzvah D'oraisa, she's Yaitze with her own kiddush. And the mitzvah Drabanan, which requires a kais, for that she is mechaven to be Yaitze Shomea Ka'ona, and for that she has a kais, because if we use Shomea Ka'ona, then there is a kais, because he's holding a kais, and as far as Drabanan is concerned, we can be seivach and a chazaka that he has Shtei Saris, and that way she's covered side the mitzvah D'oraisa of kiddush and side the mitzvah Drabanan of kiddush. Okay, now we want to talk about a different halacha. That the Sefer Drisha on the tour in Agdama, the Sefer Drisha, the Agdama was written by the Drisha's son, and he brings in the name of his mother, who was the wife of the Drisha, two chidushim that are related to Hatlokes Neiros on Yom Tov. Two chidushim. One chiddush, she says, is that two mistakes that she observed.
Let's put the drisha on, Rabbi say. Here we go. Okay.
One mistake is that we know that on Shabbos we know that on Shabbos, women light candles first and then make the bracha. Even though usually the rule is the bracha is made before you light. On Hanukkah, we light the menorah, we make the bracha first, then we madlik. But on Shabbos, women light first, then they cover their eyes, and then they make the bracha. The reason for that is because women are noig that once they make the bracha on Adlokas Neiris, they're noig to be Mekabel Shabbos with that bracha. So then there's a problem. Once they Mekabel Shabbos, they can't be madlik anymore. It's Shabbos already. So because of that, they madlik first. But in order not to be nene from the neiros yet, they cover their eyes. Then they make the bracha, and now they're being Mekabel Shabbos, and that's it. Then they expose their eyes, and there's no more lighting because it's already Shabbos. The candles are already lit from before. But she noticed, she observed that many women do the same thing on Yom Tov. They do the same thing on Yom Tov. And she said she doesn't think that's right. She doesn't think that's right. Because on Yom Tov, you're allowed to be madlik neiros on Yom Tov. You're allowed to be madlik neiros on Yom Tov. So on Yom Tov, why shouldn't they make the bracha first? And then light. Of course, you can't scratch a match. You can't be moiled an ash, but you can take a fire from an existing fire. You can take a fire from an existing fire and then be madlik the Yom Tov neiros. There's no reason to make the bracha on Yom Tov after the adlaka. That was one ha'ara. And many poskim agree with her, halach l'maisa. Some don't. Some say it'll be too confusing for women to tell them to do on Shabbos one way, Yom Tov the other way. Women will confuse it. They'll do just the opposite. So therefore, some poskim hold that no, she should do whatever she does Erev Shabbos, she should do Erev Yom Tov. But l'halacha l'maisa, unless a person knows that his minik is to not to differentiate between Shabbos and Yom Tov, l'halacha l'maisa, Shmuel paskins that on Yom Tov she should make the bracha before she lights. But then there's a second observation she observed. Many women on Yom Tov night, they are madlik neiros. They wait for the husbands to come home from shul, and then they're madlik neiros right before kiddush. It's already dark. Now, the second night of Yom Tov, everyone does that. You have to do it that way because you can't light earlier because you can't light on the first day for the second day. You can't do malacha. You can't light the neiros of Yom Tov Sheni while it's still Yom Tov Rishon. You can't even do it ben hashmashas. So the second night of Yom Tov for sure, that's the correct way of doing it. You wait till the husband is home from shul, it's right before kiddush, she lights neiros. But many women do this the first night as well. And that she was critical of. She said, why? Why? She felt that they should light the candles before Yom Tov. Because we light candles because of covered Yom Tov. We light candles because of covered Yom Tov. Covered Einik Yom Tov. Covered Yom Tov is that the candles should be lit before Shabbos comes. We don't put on our Shabbos clothing after it's already Shabbos. You put on your Shabbos clothing when it's Friday. So you should enter Shabbos looking Shabbos-dik. So too, we light candles so the room should be lit up. You have to picture those days. There was no electricity. This was the light. So the mitzvah would be to enter Yom Tov with the room already lit up. So she felt that it would be more appropriate, even on Yom Tov, it's okay to light the neiros after Seisek Chavim, but that still shouldn't be the correct, the Chatchila way of doing it. Chatchila, she should light before Yom Tov. That's the covered Yom Tov. The covered Yom Tov is to light before, just like Shabbos. Shabbos, there's no choice. You can't light once it's Shabbos. But even Yom Tov, where there is a choice, but still it's covered Yom Tov to light before Yom Tov, so that when Yom Tov comes, the room is lit up. That was the second order. But the fact remains, there are many Yidden who are talking Noyik, even the first night, to light the Yom Tov Neiris after husband comes home from shul, right before Kiddush. It's ready. It says to Chavim. Many Yidden don't know it that way. So I want to try to suggest a limud chus, a reason why it would be appropriate to light after the husband comes home. And that's as follows. There's a B'Kivega, famous B'Kivega, Simon Aleph and Shulchan Aruch. Kvega has a very big chiddush. Kvega says that he believes that women, we know that on Shabbos, we said before, women are mechuyev to make kiddush, just like men. Not only are they mechuyev to make kiddush, they're mechuyev in all mitzvahs hayom. Women are mechuyev to eat 3 sudas, just like men. All mitzvahs hayom, zacha v'shama, just like they're mechuyev in shmira, they're mechuyev in zchira, and they're mechuyev in every single mitzvah hayom. But Kvega Tain is that's for Shabbos. Shabbos we have zacha v'shama, but on Yom Tov, zacha v'shama was said on Shabbos. But when it comes to Yom Tov, we should revert back to the general rule that women are part of for mitzvah seis man grama. So Kvega wants to be mechadish that women are part of from kiddush on Yom Tov. Kvega wants to be mechadish. He holds like that women are part of from kiddush on Yom Tov. He says they were mekabel it, just like women are part of from kiddush shayfa, but the Maisa they were mekabel it, and now it's a chayv because they were mekabel it. So kiddush on Yom Tov, even though Meika did their potter, but they were mekabel upon themselves. But he wants to say they're also potter from the mitzvahs of kavod v'einik, which means they're potter from Sudas Yom Tov, which means women do not have to eat bread on Yom Tov. Kvega holds, because the chiyuv to eat bread on Yom Tov, Kvega holds, is mitam kavod v'einik. There is a mitzvah of simcha on Yom Tov, and that mitzvah many Rishonim hold women are mechuyev, because it says before in the pasuk, you and your daughter. So many Rishonim pass in halacha that women are mechuyev in simcha Yom Tov, but the mitzvah to eat bread on Yom Tov, the mitzvah to have sudas, suda at night, suda in the morning, that's Kvega holds that's not mitam simcha, because better than sameach. Simcha is basar yayin, but the chiyuv to eat bread is mitam kavod v'einik, and the raya for that is on Chol HaMoed we paskin that there's no chiyuv to eat bread. There's a mitzvah, but not a chiyuv. Chol HaMoed, there's no chiyuv to have 2 sudas. You have to eat, can fast, but there's no chiyuv of suda. Now, only on Yom Tov there's a chiyuv suda. Now, if the chiyuv of eating bread on Yom Tov would be mitam simcha, the mitzvah of simcha applies all 7 days. The Samach of the Chagecha includes Chol HaMoed as well. Let's take the Fush the Rambam. Mitzvah simcha goes for all 7 days. Or so if the chiyuv to eat bread would be mitam simcha, why shouldn't there be a chiyuv to eat bread on Chol HaMoed? From the fact that there's no chiyuv to eat bread on Chol HaMoed, Dr. B'Kivega is a raya that the chiyuv to eat bread is not mitam simcha, it's mitam kavod v'einik. That's oinik Yom Tov. Just like on Shabbos there's a chiyuv to eat bread mitam oinik Shabbos, so too on Yom Tov there's a chiyuv to eat bread mitam oinik Yom Tov. Dr. B'Kivega, if that's the case, he doesn't see why women should be chayiv to eat bread, because on Shabbos that the Torah says zacha v'shama, that teaches us that women are mechuyev in all the mitzvahs hayom. Women are mechuyev in all the mitzvahs hayom, just like men. Okay, they make kiddush, they eat suda, which includes eating bread, eating 2 meals, 3 meals. But on Yom Tov, where we don't have zacha v'shama, so Kvega Tain is women are not mechuyev to eat bread on Yom Tov. They have to eat something, not allowed to fast, because simcha is mechayev them to eat something, but not bread. Bread that's mitam kavod v'einik. Kvega says women are not mechuyev, which means Kvega holds that if a woman forgets to say Yalav Yova in benching on Yom Tov, she doesn't have to bench over again. She does not have to bench over again, just like on Rosh Chodesh. If one forgets to say Yalav Yova bench over again, because since there's no Chiyuv Suda, So the Yalvi is not Likuva. On Shabbos, you forget to say Ritzay in the first 2 meals, you got to bench over again, because Shabbos, you have to eat a Suda. You have to bench. But on Yom Tiv, a man who forgets Yalvi benching on Yom Tiv has to bench over again. But a woman, Mikvega, wants to say, passing like that, that on Yom Tiv, if a woman forgets to say Yalvi in benching, she does not bench over again. Many persons disagree with this. Moshe Feinstein among them, and hold that they hold that women are mechuyev in Suda because Yom Tov is included in Shabbos, and whatever the mechuyev in Shabbos, mechuyev in Yom Tov. But many disagree with Kvega, but Kvega himself holds that women are not mechuyev to eat Suda on Yom Tov, and they're not mechuyev to eat bread, and if they would forget Yalav Yom, they would not bench over again. Halach al-Maisa, many Gedolim say Kvega is not. Kvega paskins that she does not bench over again. Halacha Maisa, she should not bench over again. Of course, if she can be yaitze with someone else's benching, she finds someone else who didn't bench yet, she should do that. But otherwise, she should not bench over again because Kvega is Rav Gufrei, and since he holds halacha that she does not have to eat bread, even though other women should eat bread, because most poskim hold that women are mechuyev to eat bread on Yom Tov, but from that wegen, if she forgets say Al Yovei, but the Chashash B'Ochel HaTola, the halacha will be that she would not bench over again. That's the shit of Kvega. So there's a big kasha that some ask on the Kvega. And that is, how can Kvega say that women are not mechuyev in kavod vaynik? That's what Kvega says. Not mechuyev in kavod vaynik. Not mechuyev any of the mitzvahs of not mechuyev kiddush. Not mechuyev kavod vaynik. If that's the case, how could women be madig neiros on Yom Tov and she's being moiti the whole family? When a woman lights neiros, she's not just lighting for herself. Every single member of that family, the husband, the children, they're all mechuyev, they're all yaitze with her adlaka. But how can the men be yaitze with her adlaka? The chiyuv to light candles on Yom Tov is mitzat kavod vaynik. Just like Shabbos, the chiyuv to light neiros is because that's kavod Shabbos. That's oinik Shabbos. Keeps the house lit up. Oinik Shabbos, shalom bayis. But oinik Shabbos, oinik kavod vaynik. That's the chiyuv of adlakas neiros on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. So if we're going to say that women are potter from the mitzvah of kavod vaynik, should come out, they're potter from adlakas neiros, even though she's allowed to light als einoi mitzvah vayisa, but how could she be made to her husband? How could she be made to the boys? And how could she be made to all the men of the family? They are mechuyev mikadin. She's not mechuyev. Her it's just an einoi mitzvah vayisa. How could she be mitzi? An einoi mitzvah vayisa can be mitzi someone who's mitzvah? Like Fegler Shmuel Ruzovsky. Others asked, according to Kvega, how could a woman light neiros on Yom Tov and be mitzi the whole mishpacha, including the men? If her chiyuv is only, she had no chiyuv altogether. She's just doing it. But Torah is einoi mitzvah vayisa. And the men are mechuyev mikadin. So how could she be the one that's madlik and be mitzi the men who are mechuyev mikadin? That's a shtak akasha mikivega. So what some want to say, they want to answer this question. There is an Aruch HaShulchan that says that on Yom Tov, the chiyuv to be madlik neiros on Yom Tov is not only mitam kavod vaynik, it's also mitam simcha. On Shabbos, there's no mitzvah simcha. So on Shabbos, it's only as kavod vaynik. But on Yom Tov, we have an additional reason. Not simcha dik to eat in the dark. So mitzad simchas Yom Tov, that's also a mechayev to be madlik neiros. Mitam simchas Yom Tov. So kumta is the chiyuv of adlokas neiros on Yom Tov is not only mitam kavod vaynik, it's also mitam simcha. Memela, women are mechuyev in adlokas neiros because they also are mechuyev in simcha. In achinami, they're not mechuyev mitam kavod vaynik, mitam besides that, they wouldn't be mechuyev. But mitam simcha, they're mechuyev. So l'maisa, they're mechuyev and adlokas neiros. It doesn't matter the fact that a man has two things to be mechayev in kavod vaynik plus simcha, and she has only one thing. It doesn't matter. Savka, she's a bachiyuva. Safka she's mechuyev to light candles. Why? Because on Yom Tiv, part of the mechayev is the mitzvah of simcha, and women are mechuyev in simcha's Yom Tiv, la locha. So in Mela, that's why she is a bachiyuva, even though she's parted from Suda Shabbos and she's parted from Kiddush Mikadin, but Hadlokas Neiris, which is not only Mitam Kovid Leinik, it's also Mitam Simcha. If it's also Mitam Simcha, she's considered a bachiyuva because she is mechuyev in Simcha Yom Tov, like it says in the pasuk Mefurish, Ata Mitra Vitecha, your daughters also. So since she's mechuyev in Simcha, therefore she's considered a bas chiyuva when it comes to the mitzvah of Hadlakas Neiros, and Memela she can light and be mitzi the entire mishpach. If he's there, I think we have a very good reason to fend for the minik of those women who light even the first night after Seisek Chavim, because since their chiyuv is only mitam simcha, not mitam kovid v'ainik, not mitam kovid v'ainik, the mitzvah of simcha, Toysus says in Ksubis, the mitzvah of simcha Yom Tiv does not begin until it's Laila. There's no din Toysvis. There's no din Toysvis Yom Tiv when it comes to simcha. The samach the b'chagecha is only on the chag itself. Toysvis, we know the law is it's also to get married on Yom Tiv because the samach the b'chagecha lo beishtacha. Ein ma'am simcha b'simcha. It's also to get married on Yom Tiv. Toysvis says mefurish in Ksubis that if let's say a person makes an early Yom Tiv, Mikabel Yom Tov early. It could be just like it could be Mikabel Yom Tov early, but Taisa says during that zman of Yom Tov you're allowed to get married because there's no mitzvah simcha during that zman because it's not yet the chag. Even though Mikabel Yom Tov early, but chagecha is only when it becomes actual Yom Tov, which is after Seisek Chavim, and Ishmash is a suffix. But the Avale mitzvah simcha is first after Seisek Chavim. If that's the case, it's very good why a woman should light on Yom Tiv dafka after Seisek Chavim, since she's lighting mitam simcha, not mitam kovid v'ainik. On Shabbos, she's doing mitam kovid v'ainik. Kovid Yom Tiv, kovid Shabbos begins even before Shabbos. We do things, get dressed, do things to prepare for Shabbos. The chiyuv of kovid Shabbos, that begins before Shabbos. Lots of things we do on Friday for kovid Shabbos. So on Shabbos, when the chiyuv is mitam kovid, so she lights already before Shabbos because kovid Shabbos already begins before Shabbos. But on Yom Tov, where her chiyuv is not mitam kovid, according to Bikivega, that holds there's no chiyuv kovid for women. So on Yom Tov, her chiyuv hadlaka is only mitam simcha. Simcha is only at night. There is no mitzvah simcha erev Yom Tov. Even if you're Makabel Yom Tov early, there's still no mitzvah simcha. Even though a woman is Makabel Yom Tov when she lights candles, there's still no mitzvah simcha. Though she have a fruish in Taisus, in Ksubis, that when woman lights, when you Makabel Yom Tov early, there's no mitzvah of simcha. You're allowed to get married. You're allowed to get married during that time, during the time of Taisus Yom Tov. So the mitzvah of simcha first begins at night. The Mela, since her chiyuv, according to Bikivega, her chiyuv hadlakas neiros is only mitam simcha. Because mitam kovid v'ainik, it's a mitzvah asayich man grama. So the whole chiyuv of hadlakas neiros on Yom Tov is only mitam simcha. And Mela, we have a good reason why women light even the first night. Why women light neiros? Why women light neiros dafka after Seisek. This is only to be miyashiv those who have that minik. Because Safka Safla Loche, I mean, like we said before, most places do not agree with the Bikvega. Most places hold that women are even covered v'ainik on Yom Tiv. So, and someone who doesn't have a minik daf can do at night. Avada should do it. Should follow the preacher's wife. And when he paskin halacha that way, but there are many Yidden who are noig on Yom Tiv to light even the first night, to light after husbands come home, after it's Seisek Chavim. So to be miyashiv the Eish's preacher, to miyashiv Akasha, why shouldn't they light before? Start covered. So I'm saying Lefi Ritvega that there is no chiyuv cover for women, and the chiyuv adlok neiros is only bitam simcha. So we have a very good reason why they should light dafka after Seis Chacham, because the mitzvah of simcha does not begin till after it's nacht.